So that's Thomas Nacht and Cruz Borges, both of them researchers participating also in the Y project. So
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hello, Thomas.
Thank you for the introduction, Chris. As we heard before from Leire, we're in the Y project, and we're also using the Y toolkit on a use case for energy community. And now we would like to take a step back from energy communities and go towards general decision making, energy decision making, which also affects energy communities to a certain degree, because the way we shape our energy system has led to the development of energy communities, and the way energy communities are interpreted and used is a result of this development. Next slide, please. So just give me a short possibility to introduce the Y project. The Y project consists of multiple European partners from different backgrounds. We have one university, three research organizations, SME industries, and NGOs. And we are working together to create the Set Y toolkit. Next slide, please. So what do we want to do in a Y toolkit? The one main issue that we're facing today, especially when it comes to energy transition, when it comes to energy consumption, but also when it comes to formulating energy communities and setting up energy communities, is that we're not that well aware of what is actually going on in households regarding their energy consumption. For instance, in Austria, a similar approach is chosen in different countries as well, but the profiles change. We use standardized load profiles for households, which is viable if you have tons of households and the average will work out. But energy communities are often smaller and probably more see if I can share. Okay, recording has restored, but I don't see the slides as of now. Oh, Axel is back online. The slides are back online. We're good to go again. So, where was I? So basically, for energy communities, this can also be of value, this information, because once the structure of an in external intervention, this could change the setup of the energy community entirely. So maybe the distribution of energy will change. So the economic effects within the energy community changes. And that's something that's quite important and should be considered, especially when you think about that an energy community will stay in game for a long time. There will be lots of changes, there will be lots of new members, leaving members, changing members, and that's something that we also want to look at. Next slide, please. So currently, even with the advent of energy communities, there are many developments, especially in the last couple of months, that have shifted the focus probably a bit away from the topic and made energy more viable discussion topic. We have a high inflation and risk of poverty, which also translates to risk of energy poverty. Here, energy communities could provide an good possibility to handle that issue. We have soaring energy prices all over Europe. Also, there is, especially in Austria, that's quite interesting. We have a lot of fear mongering regarding energy security and security of supply. So, blackout is a huge topic that's being pushed in the media all the time. As I mentioned, energy poverty. We have global warming, but with that there comes a good part. We have a rising awareness for climate change because it's suddenly hitting us in the face right away, and it's not something very subtle anymore. So there's a lot of things going on, and the problem with that is that we simply don't know how to address this topic, especially in the energy sector. Next slide, please. So the problem with the energy sector, and this also translates again to energy communities and planning and execution of energy communities, people in general are quite inert when it comes to behavioral changes. Something very drastic has to happen in order for them to react or to change their behavior. This is especially important when it comes to decision making regarding energy laws, regarding new legislations or regulations. So any transition is a slow and painstaking process for every one of us. So think about energy communities, how long it takes to set up an energy community, given or even how long it takes to set up the laws and rules for energy communities. And from there, we're not even at the point where we know if people will really accept energy communities or adapt their behavior within an energy communities to get more out of it. So that's an issue, and we don't have any means or tools to really address that topic and see how certain changes will affect behavior. Also, any decision we make today in the energy system will likely affect us for the next couple of years, be it investment in renewable energy technologies, the fade out of nuclear energy, for instance. So the main question here is how do we shape the interventions? How do we shape the interventions that we get the best results out of it. So by intervention in the Y project, we mean an external stimulus that leads to a behavioral change, be it a new law, be it a restriction, be it funding, whatsoever. Next slide, please. So how can the Y project and the Y toolkit support here? This is when we set up the presentation, it was focused a bit more on general decision makers, but it also translates very well to decisions within an energy community or the setup of an energy community. So when we make a decision, the Y toolkit provides the benefit that we will consider individuals and their reaction to certain external stimuli. So when, for instance, a new law is passed, the Y toolkit will provide the means to see how the individuals react, and then also will simulate the effects that these interventions have on individual behavior and on investment decisions. This is interesting for energy communities because, for instance, if a new funding scheme will occur and people will start to invest in renewable energies or PV generators or battery storages or backup generators or whatever, the Y toolkit will be able to simulate that even for an energy community. So we will see, okay, the energy community with this new law, there will be a strong shift towards more individual supply, so we might need additional consumers in the energy community because just an energy community with just prosumers will be an energy community that does not exchange much energy. So, and then we will go and be able to simulate the result of the energy behavior on the entire household sector and later scale it up. Next slide, please. So for decision makers, and this is true for political decision makers mainly, um, uh, we will provide with the Y toolkit the means to define different interventions so they can set up new taxes, funds, rules, laws, prohibitions, etc., and define scenarios under which these rules should be applied. This could be a positive energy district. This could be even an energy community. So let's see, we have existing energy communities and we pass new laws, we pass new rules. How would those energy communities react to those rules? How would those energy communities change? And would they still be viable? So this is what, thank you. No, that's good. That's good. Next slide. So then you can run the toolkit and see what effects those changes, those interventions would have. You can see how individual households will react. We have a strong focus on households, not industry or other sectors. We can see what investments they will make and how they will change their behavior. So basically also for an energy community, as I mentioned before, this will lead to information on how the structure of the energy community changes and how their energy consumption and generation behavior changes. So with the Y toolkit, Toolkit, you will be capable of simulating the energy community into the far future with new technologies, new decisions, and so on. So, and back to decision makers, this will allow decision makers to compare different interventions and see which set of interventions would be best suited to reach a certain goal. And even what interventions do not satisfy or do not reach that goal, which should lead to a better decision making. Next slide, please. And how are we going to do that? I'll just go very briefly into the simulation components because that's rather technical. So we have a behavioral model that's built up on the so-called causal model, which provides the information on a setup of a household, their decision capabilities, their likeliness to invest, to change the behavior, whatever, given on an intervention that is provided externally. We have an energy service model, which is basically a technical representation of households with individual consumption behavior of different devices and different technologies that are considered in there. From there, we can go into an upscaling, taking from the individual household into larger proportions, for instance, from a small scale, a positive energy district to energy communities to countries, even EU-wide consideration, which then is done in so-called energy system models. All right, next slide, and I think this should have been it. Yep, so this is just a brief glimpse into how the Y toolkit can help decision making and should also be a viable tool for an energy community setup where also certain decisions are made and certain effects in behavioral change, technological changes, and so on will affect the energy community. So if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer all of them.